What's up, guys? Welcome back to Still Talk with my ex. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Ariel.
Back again with another episode podcast. Y'all probably say, are y'all enjoying the consistency? Hopefully you are learning. I know that last podcast we did, Ariel, was definitely fun, but super insightful. So here we are again with kind of a lighter topic. You know, we like having fun. Last week we both ended up watching the same movie, which is, what's it called again?
It's called The Wedding Planner with Jennifer Lopez and Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. So as all y'all know, first of all, I love Jennifer Lopez, and I think Matthew McConaughey is a great actor, right? J-Lo. And that was like the J-Lo era back in like the 2000s. So we all...
She was dropping music. She had just come off of Selena and a couple of other movies.
So she was riding a wave of success. She was bomb all over the place. So now we decided to kind of pick apart this movie, The Wedding Planner. There's so many different things. And I was telling Ariel, it'd be cool to kind of get a 21st century on some of the things that were said, tactics used in that movie, you know what I mean, and see how relevant it is now, because it's fun, right? So we're gonna get right
to see if it carries well 20 years later.
20 years later, that's crazy.
Yeah, the movie came out in 2001.
Wow, that's crazy.
What? So yeah. So I'm ready to get into this, but essentially, if you are unfamiliar with the movie of The Wedding Planner, it's basically a setup of, your typical classic rom-com. It's, boy meets girl by some situation, some fluke of a situation, a meet cute, if you will, where J-Lo is this wedding planner, Matthew McConaughey is this doctor. He just happens to be happens to be getting in his car. She's walking across the street in San Francisco. Her heel gets caught in a waterway opening in the road. There's a garbage can coming at her full speed. And, here he is. He's the savior of the day. He comes, he helps her. He moves her out just in the nick of time as the garbage can is about to roll her over. She passes out because he tackles her, and then, it's a whole thing. So, but then, turn of events, essentially, Matthew McConaughey is actually the husband-to-be in the wedding that Jennifer Lopez is planning that could set a better trajectory for her career. So just to kind of talk about these things, and I just have a couple of questions in terms of what are your thoughts and how, and just this movie in general, because I know, it is a classic. What are we thinking in terms of their meeting with Matthew McConaughey and J-Lo? Because I think we're just gonna kind of carry a specific view of them and their interactions in this discussion.
I think it's definitely a great movie for sure. It's definitely funny seeing Jennifer get her heels stuck in the streets. The dynamic, I think, between them, who wouldn't want to be seeing J-Lo damseled in distress, or, someone of her beauty, and who wouldn't want to be saved by a doctor? So kudos to the producers and the movie spearheads who, made it pie in the sky like that, because it could have been anybody who saved her. But I think in general of their particular dynamic, this is a man who is engaged to be married, who is someone who seems to have, his ducks in a row, great career, seems to know who he is, very fun, pretty much a Renaissance man from what I can see. Then you have J-Lo, who is definitely just flowing in her craft, soaring to the top of the charts in terms of, the wedding industry and wanting to make partner. And so I think what I love most about what they did with these two people is that they allow them to cross paths without needing anything from each other. You know, there's no economical, thing in terms of like someone needs this. She doesn't need anything from him. He doesn't need anything from her in terms of money. But what really draws them is just like an interest. We talk about this area a lot of the times about interest, right? Interest in movies, interest in music, interest in sort of dancing. You find out later that both of them are really good dancers. And so I think the dynamic is, it's an organic one, because, you get to talking with somebody and you find out that, you have a lot of great things in common.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. So going to the scene after she comes to in the children's hospital in the bed with, the neck brace around her neck, and she's like, I'm paralyzed. And the kids are like, well, you can't technically be paralyzed if you're moving your hands. Yeah. But going past that scene where now she's come to, she's having a conversation with the doctor at this time, and she's noticing that he has a woman on his desk. And he says, oh no, that's my sister. So she, she does the whole gentle, like, yeah, is that the gentle pitch of, is that your girlfriend on the desk, so to speak? And he says no. But we know that later on in the movie, she finds out that he is in fact the groom of the wedding that she is doing, that could make or break the decision for her to become partner. And so now the conversation, or now the question becomes, was he wrong for not telling her that he was in a relationship when she suddenly tried to pry?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think two parts. Like, was he wrong to not divulge that he wasn't in a relationship if he didn't show an interest in her? I think it's yes and no for me.
Okay.
I don't have to, I'm just going to put myself, I don't have to divulge who I'm dating, who I'm not, to anybody that, unless I've come out and, shown interest. I just think it was kind of a little disingenuous of him not to answer and say, but one could theorize and say that, men, we are definitely absent-minded. Sometimes I've been told this so many times, you can't see she's flirting with you. I'm like, what? I'm just being nice. So it's kind of hard to assign. It's kind of hard to kind of like assign what the character's thoughts were in that moment. But I mean, hey, listen, here's a beautiful woman. Maybe his knee-jerk or innate ability not to divulge that was in somehow, he was like, hey, because he did come out and say, you were attractive, you know what I mean? I think it's intent, and intent is the hardest thing to prove, but it's yes and no for me. If I think about now, and I think about, she asked that question, and he said, she obviously showed an interest. So I'm wondering now with women and being, walking in the liberty of, your proclivity and basically being able to initiate, right? Because I think that was a big thing too. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, men would always initiate, but now women. So I think it would have been okay for her to say, well, do you have a girlfriend? You know what I mean? I think now if you speed up, people be like, okay, well, are you dating anybody? That would have been the next follow-up question. Well, who's the lucky lady in your life? You know what I mean? So, maybe she could have saved herself with that question. Maybe, maybe not, who knows? But yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah, so going into that, just going a little bit deeper into that, because I would say, I agree with you that you don't have to divulge that you're in a relationship. And I do agree with you that, some of my guy friends who I've talked to, I'm just like, you're so oblivious, especially like when we're out and there's like a woman and she's attempting and he just does not see it. I'm like, how did you miss it? Yeah. But I think there is something to be said that like I feel like there was a space even if he said, no, that's my sister, but I am engaged. I feel like a but I am engaged could have been added there. Yeah. Even if, and I can see how, maybe not 20 years ago, but definitely in today's time, if that was a conversation that was had, and if she did have an interest, and we are now in this space of, it's okay to, still exhibit and exude some interest without looking desperate or thirsty, and just being like, oh, okay, well, are you currently dating anybody or what have you? Because I think the awkwardness of that entire scene was more so that her assistant was the one who did a lot of the inviting to the further evening events, which I'm sure he was just like, okay, I'll go. It'll be her and the friend. It'll be totally innocent. But I think also, even in that space of the scene where now the friend has left, they're sitting together.
Man, I gotta go.
Darn.
That was funny.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think once the darn happened, and so now they're sitting on a tree trunk together and they're watching a movie, and it's now become like a social situation where it's just the two of you.
Yeah.
Should he have at least then brought it up of, okay, I know how this could look.
Yeah.
But I'm involved, and by involved I mean I'm engaged.
Yeah.
So that we don't murky these waters.
Yeah, it's the accountability for me. I think as someone who, one day, if I am to be married, the way that you keep yourself, in a healthy space with other women is by including your wife. So I wouldn't feel comfortable, or in this case, he was engaged, so his girlfriend or fiance. I don't know if I'd be comfortable with being in it. It reminds me of that. It kind of reminds me of Two Can Play That Game with Keith and Shantae. And
that's another one we could review.
Yeah, that's a good one. And Keith it's kind of same dynamic between men where, attractive woman, it's just harmless. But for me, I think he would have saved himself if he would have just maybe invited the wife or let her know, like, hey, this is the situation, you want to come out, blah, 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 blah. And by that time, I think both of them were just in the thick of it. You know what I mean? But he definitely should have said, hey, or just kind of intimated in it, or just, let me call my wife real quick. Or you can kind of casually bring it up. Then she would have been like, oh. And then she might have been like, oh no, I gotta go. But instead, she didn't say anything. He didn't say anything rather. And I think that kind of exacerbated the moment.
Yeah, because the moment after is, would you like to dance? And then he's like, he kind of stutters and stammers, but he can't really find the words to say no. And then good old, I think the character's name was Bert, played by Lou Myers. It's like, if the woman asks you to dance, you get out there and you dance. And so now it's like, okay, I'm in this weird spot where I can't say no. And so I gotta get up and dance with her, but then it gets murky again, because here they are, they're dancing, he almost kisses her, and the rain pours, and in scene. So now that there has not been any line of establishment of, I can no longer go this far because I engaged.
Yeah.
And the fact that there has not been that, now could it be said that he has now tiptoed into the space of emotional cheating?
Yeah, I think when they almost kissed, that was like, dang. It was like,
I was like,
it's the chemistry for me. It's the whole, I couldn't imagine being in a precarious situation like that where I'm about to kiss someone other than my fiance, but it happens. I think what I learned is, don't put yourself in these very unusual, dangerous situations without the person that you're in. So just communicating. But if I'm thinking about his character, he was already someone who he wasn't really sure about the dynamic. already. So that's why we keep telling people, like, be sure, because a secure person is gonna say, hey, that's my wife, or that's my fiance. Let me call my fiance. That's what secure people do. People who don't,
or they'll invite her,
or they're invited. You know, invite that person to come for accountability purposes. People who are not secured will just be like, oh, let's just see where this goes because I'm not sure about what I have.
That part. So also in that space. So now we move past it. The rain has happened in scene. She has this goofy look on her face, and she's smitten because there was a connection, and it was a positive connection, one that she thought went very well. And we don't know if there was like any further communication after that, but she was just like really excited about it. But then we get to the ballroom where she has met up with her bride that is on this big account, and she turns around and she says, hey, and also be my fiance. And bam, here we are, face to face with the man that you just danced with in the rain and almost kissed. And
the man that you've been speaking about.
To this same woman who you are planning her wedding.
How many times did that happen though? Is that like a real thing? Like, I'm pretty sure it's happened.
I think it could have, but I think it's a rarity more often than not. You know, it gave her good drama for us to stay engaged as watchers, I'm sure.
I said that this could have easily ended up being a cheating dynamic.
You did. You want to explain that or dive a little deeper in that?
Well, I just think that like what's important to note is that the wife worked as like an interception to what could have gone on. You know what I mean? I'm not sure. Again, attraction, let me tell you something. Attraction is a big thing. You know what I mean? When you're attracted to someone, and you kind of like have that level of intimacy, and you know, when you add a good conversation in there, it's just the law of attraction, right? Yeah. That's not saying that you shouldn't resist. Now, I'm not saying that, but I just think that like for them, that could have easily had it had not, you know, wound up in some bizarro universe where she was actually the bride or the wedding planner for his fiance. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that they could have possibly, you know, had a cheating relationship. You know what I mean? It's just chemistry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just so happens that the Mary, I think that's her name, the character that Jennifer Lopez plays, that Mary just kind of had integrity. She was like, I know this lady. How many times did that happen? You know what I'm saying? So that's a big thing. Kudos to her character. Hopefully, we like to think that would happen more often than not.
Absolutely.
But in this particular case, you know, in the movie it did. And so I just think that it's crazy. But like I keep saying, like, when you are attracted to someone, it's okay, because you are going to be attracted to other, you know, men who are going to see a beautiful woman and be attracted to her. I think there's a huge difference between acting on that attraction, of course, obviously, and just admiring that, you know what, that's a beautiful woman. And same things can go for women. You know, when they see someone, an attractive male, same thing. But I just think that like you got to be rooted in what you have at home, so that when you go to the streets, you are not unsure, you know, that this can take you away from what you say you want in your life. And so I just think that it's definitely murky, but it's bizarre. They definitely probably would have cheated in the real world, that's for sure. At least in my mind.
In your mind, you feel like they would have cheated if they weren't connected in this bizarre way of she's planning their wedding.
Yeah, because the wife just kind of acted as an emblem, of reminder. You know what I mean? That's what that was. You know? And so I think had she not been there, what else would, you know what I'm saying? Like, what else would have happened? Because Mary was attracted to him. It was both of them who was about to kiss each other right there.
Exactly.
The boonies watching the movie.
Right. So now the question becomes, Mary knows that I believe Matthew McConaughey's character, his name is Steve. So Mary knows that Steve is, you know, engaged to be married. And they've had like a couple of scenes where it was like close call, where they're flirting, because now they're really trying to keep momentum with planning the wedding. Steve's fiance, Fran, is going out of town, but she wants to keep the momentum. And so she's like, y'all plan it. But she doesn't really know, like, her man is the man that Mary is referring to, of the groom.
That's crazy.
And so now the question becomes, because Mary is now spending a lot of time with Steve, unnecessary time. Well, it's not unnecessary, but she's spending a lot of time with Steve, but she also knows that she is attracted to Steve. And she also understands and realizes that Steve is attracted to her, to the point that they have like this kind of contentious conversation, and then they come back and they apologize later. But could it be said that Mary is also responsible in this space of the emotional murkiness and the emotional cheating? Because she knows that Steve is she knows that she's attracted to Steve. She knows that it could complicate and murky things in terms of business relationships and business partnerships. But yet and still, she's gonna try to go through with it because she's looking at dollar signs at the end of this and wanting to be made partner.
Yeah.
So is she responsible? Well, does she share in that responsibility?
I think because she managed, I didn't see her do anything wrong. She didn't do anything that offended me. If I would have reversed roles, I didn't see anything that was offensive. And so, and I don't want to blame the woman as well too, because I feel like here is someone who is living their truth. She finds out, she tries to get out of it. You know, she tries to get out of the contract, but, you know, her friend convinces her, you can do this. Does her emotions do seep through, but it's not in a way that is trying to get him. It's not in a way that's trying to seduce him. It's more of, you know, you are a very duplicitous person, you know what I mean? And it's more about calling him to the carpet. So for me, I don't know if she shares responsibility. I think what happens is, in the beginning, if she had just been a little bit more, I don't know if I want to use the word assertive, but I felt like if she had just kind of followed up a bit more, maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe I think if I put myself in that seat, I'm thinking, you know, doctor, definitely got to be married or not married. You know what I mean? Definitely got to be spoken for. And so I think, you know, women, you all have that kind of internal gauge to where you guys can kind of really think through things and really compartmentalize, you know, a situation. And so I don't know, maybe, but I do know we see what we want to see. You know what I mean? And so because of where she's sitting, maybe that's why she just didn't see it until it was right there on her face, literally. And so I think for me, it's just like, I'm not going to indict her as someone who's trying to get in between their relationship. I just think that she just somehow, you know, we see things through the prism of where we are. And I just think that's where it is.
Okay.
I think he'd be more guiltier than she is.
Oh, absolutely. I would agree with that. I think, though, to the point of what you brought up, I don't want to just indict her character, but I do feel as though she shares some of the brunt of this, because there were multiple times, even if your friend told you that you can finish this wedding or this and the third, and she finally gives the account over at the last minute because she's going to go get married. I think that there is a lot that could have been said to send your friend to some of these locations, so that you're not having to spend so much time with him. And the fact that she knew that she was going to have alone time with him going to these different places, and yet and still she didn't try to create like a mediation, a barrier. I feel like there is some accountability that she plays in it. Is she just like a covert and outright cheater? No, but I do think that because there is some interest, because there is some attraction there, I do believe she shares just a little bit of the brunt, just you know, just.
It's definitely.
I feel like she does carry some of that because of the history of the history and the fact that she knows how they met.
Yeah.
Right, and the fact that to keep it all the way professional, as she said, she could have easily sent her assistant and said, hey, can you go meet him here? Hey, can you go, to just kind of stop this in the tracks, because she does realize and she does know that he is married.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So who would you say could do more damage with the relationships around them? Would it be Steve, who now is in the process of, in the process of emotional cheating? Mm-hmm. So Fran is affected because they're together. Mary is affected because she's attracted to him and she's interested in him and she knows that she cannot have him. Or is it Mary, who, also has a man who is attracted to her in Massimo? Yeah. But she's like, no, I don't like you. I want to be with you. And I get that we are okay to have our preferences, but also she went to this man who likes her to talk about the fact that she likes a whole nother man. And I think it was so profound that he, when they were having that conversation, and he was like, you long for him the way I long for you. And I was like, oh my goodness. So him, so like, how she shut down Massimo, or the fact that she can't see the hypocrisy of, like the fact that she came at her ex for cheating the night before their wedding, but here she is with this man, and she can't see the tables turning. So who would you think could cause more damage?
Well, I think I don't see any of them as like mutual. I see pain as pain, damage as damage. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't see a mutual exclusivity there. I think what really does pain me is that obviously people are buzzed about the wedding. And so if you are someone who's been planning a wedding and ultimately people know that you and this person were to be wedded, and now you got, someone coming in, Nanny Fine coming in, just playing. If you got somebody coming in and, being sort of, something diabolical in your relationship, whether they intend to or not, I think it definitely is. It might weigh on you a little bit differently because we to some degree of us as humans, we care about what people think, I also think about her career and the repercussions against her career. Had a situation, not gone the way that it did, one could say that there are definitely ripple effects to her career and her reputation, and even to the brand. I think she was trying to be co-owner at that point, or a partner at that point. Mm-hmm. So I think the sword cuts both ways for me. I just think that like no one comes out unscathed. I just think that it's more important in terms of how people live through it. Mary, her dad, Fran, her parents, Steve. Again, I think a lot of the reputation, these are people who have, pretty prominent people in their industry. So, anytime you do something crazy and everyone's heart is in it, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think his name was Massimo, something like that. Was that
Massimo?
Massimo, I think about his heart, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I think what I do see as more of a detriment for Massimo than Fran was that Fran was also where Steve was, but she was just afraid to say it, Mm-hmm. So she was kind of uncoupling. They both kind of been uncoupling throughout the years or throughout that dynamic. I think Massimo's heart was probably in it with her, you know what I mean, because of that desire. And then of course, who wants to be with someone that you're not meant to be with? Mary and Steve. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you made great points there. I do believe that Steve would have more of a detriment to the people around him had he acted on the things that he could have possibly acted on, from like the drunken scene where he's, toasting her marshmallows at her house and make sure that she gets home safe because she's just had such an unprofessional moment. So it speaks to that, like, so that part speaks to it as well, of like, I understand that she wants to be, she wants to be a professional, but you just had this unprofessional moment. You got your client at your house and you're laying on your couch, who he had to walk you home drunk.
Yeah.
Like, that's not professional at all. So I think that she could have had a detriment to her own career at that point. But two, I do believe that, like you said, Fran and Steve were having these moments of uncoupling away from each other, and they were just kind of going along with the flow because it just seemed like the natural trajectory of things. But I agree with you that Massimo was definitely affected. But I also think that Massimo was young and he was gonna spring forward and bounce back, because towards the end of it, Massimo is like, hello, ladies, like to a whole new set of women. So I think it would have been fine. I do think that there was a level of hypocrisy and I get it when you are in your emotions and sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. I think Mary had a moment of hypocrisy where she was talking, where she ran into her ex-fiance. He's married to his ex that he cheated on her with in her car.
While they were looking for the flowers.
Yep. And now she's pregnant and they're getting ready to have a baby.
Oh.
Right. But I think, and I think Mary's unraveling that she did that evening with just like drinking a whole 6-pack of beer and, showing up very drunk for her client, it really kind of speaks to what we were talking about in, our closeout of, the miseducation of singleness and dating, where we're talking about the healthy parts of uncoupling. Like, there needs to be a process of uncoupling. The fact that Mary could not let her wedding dress go. Like, it was still hanging up in the closet, and her dad was like, "We get rid of this thing." And the moment her dad said that, it triggered something in her. She's like, "No, put it back." But at the same time, and then even seeing her ex sent her into a spiral. So I think, just even talking about like the space of uncoupling is so important. Because Mary thrusted herself into her work and never really just kind of got an identity of herself and who she is outside of her work. And because of that, she has not been able to really just kind of uncouple in a way that kind of moves her past this state of the bitterness of, I'm just a poor man's Wendy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I definitely will say about Fran and Steve is like something that he said or she said, I can't remember who said it, but they were like, we've been together so long, we don't know why we're together. That was something that really kind of stuck out to me, because if you've been together, high school sweethearts, and then you you're college, and then you graduate, and then you both build together, you do evolve, evolve. And you kind of innately get bored. Anything that you do over and over and over again, there's a natural, boredom that kind of hits you, to where you have to remind yourself of why you make the decision. You have to allow the relationship to go through a refreshing, because as you kind of grow older, as you come out of like that googly-eyed, phase, you really have to figure out, oh, this is really like a partnership, and I enjoy this person. This is why. And so for me, like, when they said that they've been together so long, I thought about so many other couples who are just together, but they don't know why they're together. They don't know their purpose as a couple, And that purpose keeps things vitalized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When you get purpose, then you have an assignment. And when you have an assignment, there's something that both of you can put your hands to. And so I think that had a lot to do with it as well too. I can say as a man that when you are self-assured and when you are with someone and you know that you are loving this person that you've decided, it's really nothing, you know, I'm not really checking for nobody else when I'm really engaged, interacting with someone who I'm entertaining, you know what I mean? It's just more so about that security and understanding like, oh, this is who I decided that I'm going to be with, and this is why. And so them both not knowing why they were together just because it made sense, I think that had a lot to do with it. And just that whole block, you know, it was a whole block of like information that they needed to fill with. This is why. And so sometimes we carry around space with nothing in it.
Absolutely.
We don't know the reason why we have, like, why do you have this big suitcase? What's the purpose of it? Why, you know, why are you with me? What do I do for you? You know what I'm saying? That's a Tyler Perry.
Yeah.
What do I do for you? But, you know, you got to know those things if you want to be in a long-term relationship. You know?
I agree. I think one thing that I will say and give you credit for is that he better late than never, or not at all. The fact that he would not have gone down the aisle. Now, I will say this, the fact that he made the realization to walk to her and talk with her, to have the conversation on the wedding day, that's a little close to the buzzer, sir. But I will also give him credit to say that at least he did not marry her knowing he didn't want to be with her. And he actually, you know, called it forward and said, hey, why are we together? Like, why do you want to marry me today? And he even said, like, if we can come to a resolve and understand and we get to the reasoning as to why we want to be married, I'll put this cummerbund on, I'll go up there and we go to the big top and we can get married right now. And he was like, it's something missing. There's something missing here. And I think that I would commend him for doing that, because a lot of people, especially standing in that space that late in the space of all of the wedding things, coming out and saying, why are we doing this? And I think even with Fran, she had like some hesitation even when he started to ask the questions, because she was like, I can't believe you're doing this to me on my wedding day. Like, it makes sense. We should just still get married, because we've been doing the things. We've been putting together the items. There's guests that are, you know, there are 300 guests here. And he's like, we don't know half of them. Yeah. And they're here. And we also don't know why we want to get married. So I will give Steve that credit of actually bringing that to the forefront. And I will also give Mary's dad the credit of stopping Mary and her wedding, because obviously she wasn't going to stop it. She was just, and it was clearly she's settling, because she doesn't, especially after that blow of being with or seeing her fiance. And then the blow of the timing is off and he's a great guy, but he's getting married as well. You know, she's like, you know, let me marry this man who's expressed that he has a desire for me, that he wants me. Love the person who wants you, basically, kind of situation, which is great if you also feel the same way. But she's already told him, like, I don't have any attraction to you. We don't have any of the similar interests or what have you, but she was just gonna marry this man just because it was a safe bet.
Right, absolutely.
You know. Are there any other points that we've missed that we want to talk about?
I think if you have not seen The Wedding Planner, it's a good feel-good movie. It's a great romantic comedy. If you're somebody who can identify with being in a situation where you've been there, it's a good reminder to note why you are in a relationship with someone and that you have an investment in that person. And so, I mean, it's a great movie. I think it feels good. We laugh in it, but there are definitely some hidden gems and some hidden messages in it that I think are worth viewing for sure.
Absolutely. I would say that this is just, I laugh every time I watch it. It is definitely a cutesy feel-good film. You know, it's kind of like a little pick me up. How do you feel though about the messaging that could be sent though? Like in a world of post-pandemic 2021, we're 20 years after this movie came out, and you know, the storyline is we have a connection, but the timing is off. And he's getting married, and there is emotional connectedness to someone who is unavailable. Like, is this movie, like, is this setup of that storyline, is it problematic or is it relatable? Like, what are the things? What are your thoughts?
I think it's a piece of culture, pop culture. I think it's a piece of, it's a reference point. It is, we, you know, mentioned earlier that it is definitely in some areas pie in the sky, very unlikely, but hey, as anecdotal as it might be, you know, these things definitely happen. I think we have enough representation now that people and people are so free, and that I think even if we put it out there, I think people, or even if the movie is still getting traction, which I know it is, because I think I saw it on Netflix. You know, people have a contrast, you know, of so many different shows and movies, and so if the messaging is coming off as, you know, pushing women back, or you know, taking women back, I think we have enough of resources now to move women forward. And also I think too is like, it was Mary who said no, you know, so to some degree, you know, I think a woman can look at that and say, you know what, yeah, you're doctor, yeah, you know, you're attractive, yeah, this could be, but I won't do what the last woman did. And I thought I heralded that about her. And so there's definitely some integral messages in there, and some messages that I think are really congruent with what I believe in. And as, you know, as crazy as the storyline is, I think it just shows that even the goodest of people, you know, the best of people rather, we have our moments, you know, we are attracted to certain people, and you know, we make crazy decisions, you know, but we get it right, you know what I mean? And I like people that credit, you know what I mean? I think most people kind of know what they want, and eventually you champion for that. So I think it's still I think it has its messages, but I think it's a good contrast with a lot of the things that we have coming out today.
Yeah, I would say that I did think at a certain point, I was like, this is a bit problematic in terms of how it could inspire hope for others who have off timing and they have a crush and they're waiting on the crush to realize that I'm the one that they should be with, right? So I thought that it could be problematic in that. But I do believe that it is something that is relatable, and it does give the empowerment of a woman to just be like, no, even if it is something where he does say that he's interested in you, even if it is something where this man is tied up, or he says that, you know, or even if it's something where it's not even the situation that's in the movie, but even if it's something similar of like, just give me time and I'm gonna get my stuff together and I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that. It's like, no, like, go ahead, emphasize your no. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. And I think Mary definitely did a good job of letting her no's be no, and turning down Steve, even with his proposition, because again, emotional cheating is a thing. And if he does it with her, if he does it with Fran, it could be said that he could possibly do it with you. So but I think it is definitely it's a sweet movie again, just in terms of just like the rom-com feel that it has, the comedic timing of things, you know, like the run like a man like me while they're in the fitness center is hilarious to me. when they're tussling at this place. You know, the mom who's always drunk at the wine places and talking about how she's gonna sing karaoke at the wedding. Just, it was a lot of good classic moments. But yeah, I think that this movie I think it has carried well over the last 20 years. It's definitely relatable. But I also think that, like you said, we have had some evolution since the movie came out. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. We hope that you all got a kick out of it. You know, we wanted to kind of review and go through and see like some contrast between then and now, and just kind of give you guys our up-to-date versions. You know, this is 20 years ago. So much has happened, you know. Here we are now. And so I think it's a great movie. Check it out if you have not. Y'all know we appreciate you for rolling with us and helping us and allowing us to grace your TV or phone or iPad, etc. Keep on supporting with the support. We getting up out of here as always, but if you have not, please like and subscribe. Comment down below as well too, because we definitely love hearing from you as well too. Hit us up at the email stilltalkwithmyex@gmail.com. And until we meet again next week, be safe. We love y'all. Peace.
Bye.